We've done a video about how to make the starter. Today I'm going to show you how to store it, how to maintain it, and also how to use it. So the last time we went through all the steps, 2 weeks, how to build the starter. And by the last day, after feeding it, after waiting 6 to 12 hours until it tripled, you stir it and you put it in a jar, something like this, and put it in the refrigerator if you're not ready to use it in your bread baking. If you're ready to use it, the moment you get to the volume got to 3 times to the initial, relatively to the initial volume, then bake with it immediately. If not, stir it, put it in a clean jar, and put it in the refrigerator until you're ready to use it. So this is the starter we built together. I put it in a clean jar after stirring it. And there is one thing, once you put it in the refrigerator, if it's not, your refrigerator is not cold enough, it will go up a little bit. So put it in a jar where you have a little bit space left in the jar because it's still a little bit active, and store it. And you can store it up to 1 month. After 1 month, you have to really feed it and put it back. If you're going to use it the next 3-4 months or the next year, there is another option. All you have to do, take a little bit of the starter from after it completely, it was fed, it tripled in volume, then take that starter and put a thin layer on a parchment paper. Put another parchment paper on it, and then put it in a cool, dry area for 24 hours. You can put it in the oven. Of course, the oven should be off because it's a nice place for things to dry out. And then the next day, you peel your parchment paper. And then you grind it in your coffee grinder or in a food processor. Put it in a jar and leave it in a dry, cool area, away from the moist, of course. And that starter can last for many months and many years. You can even put it in a tiny little envelope and ship it to your family and friend if they don't want to build a starter. All you have to do, take it out from the jar. After weighing the dry starter, weigh the water. It should be twice the weight of the starter. By the way, I made a mistake. I'm using only half of the water. I'm adding the other half a few minutes later. So store it very well. Leave it at room temperature for 30 minutes. We want to allow the dry starter to absorb that water. Then we weigh the flour, which is 10% rye flour and 90% of the bread flour, and it's going to be twice the weight of the dry starter. We add it to the mixture, we stir it very well, we leave it at room temperature for 24 hours. And we're going to use a lid which is not tight, because that will be perfect for our first feeding for the dry starter. "24 hours later, after our first feeding, you're going to continue feeding it 1 to 1 to 1, then 1 to 2, 2, then 1 to 3 and 3, then 1 to 4 and 4. That is the third feeding, and every time you're feeding it is between 12 hours at room temperature of 75. And the last feeding is optional. The fourth one is just in case if you're not happy with your starter, you're going to feed it 1 to 5 and 5. And by the end of the process, you're going to see your starter triple in volume and strong. At that time, take enough starter for your bread making and leave enough and store it in the refrigerator. Now, how to activate the starter from the refrigerator. The one in the refrigerator, you just, by the way, when I store the starter in the refrigerator, I don't store more than 150 gram, maybe 200, because I know I'm going to feed it again and again, and it's going to triple in weight, and it's not necessary to keep a big amount in the refrigerator. So first of all, you take the starter from the refrigerator the day before or in the morning if you're going to feed it in the evening. Put it in at room temperature, which is around 70-75 degrees, and wait a good 12 hours overnight if you want to. Stir it very well. Then take the whole amount of the starter. If you have a lot, just take half of it and throw the other one, because we need to feed it all of it anyhow. If you're not feeding it, you have to get rid of it. So take enough starter you're going to use and store. So you take the whole starter, hoping you have a small amount. Take it out, leave it out for 12 hours until it gets to room temperature. Do not feed it when it's cold. Then weigh your starter. Let's say it's 100 gram. To make the math simple, add 100 gram of water, then add 100 gram of the flour. Remember, we're just using the 10% of the rye flour and 90% of bread flour, the mixture. Then you mix it very well. Then you put it in a clean jar and then wait for 12 hours. Then the next day you do the same thing, but this time you do 1 to 2 and 2, meaning you take the weight of your starter and add twice the weight of the water and the flour, and stir it again and wait 12 hours. And then you're going to feed it for the third time, 1 to 3 and 3. And then you're going to wait 12 hours. If for any reason the starter is not performing very well, just go ahead and feed it 1 to 1 to 1 until you see it strong. Then you go to 1 to 2 and 2, then 1 to 3 and 3. But the bottom line is you have to feed it at least 3 times, and you have to see that the volume triple before you're using it in your bread. So at that moment, when you're done with all these steps, then some of your starter has to go to the refrigerator and some of it go to your bread baking. So make sure you have enough to store and to use. If you don't have enough, feed it for the 4th time, even for the 5th time, until you have enough. But you always have to wait enough hours until it triple. And that's it. It's very simple. And that's it. I hope you like this video. Please you share it with your friend and family, like it, leave your comment, and I'm going to see you soon for another video. Thank you.